to share some slides with you because what I'd really like to do is to give you all kind of the texture of who I am and how I think and what my approach is going to be in leading this organization. And so I'm going to share some slides, and I want to thank you all for this opportunity to join you this morning. Can everybody see my slides? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to really just hit on the who is Barry Price, and I want to first start with why I'm at CADCA. Um, 2014, I had the opportunity to keynote the plenary at the National Leadership Forum here in DC, and it was amazing to look out at more than 2,000 people, volunteers who were here from all over the country and the US territories, on a cold day in February during school, for the youth that were present. And I was just amazed by the passion, the momentum that was obviously in that room, and by the people who were dedicating their lives to prevention. And so, to each of you who are here today, I want to thank you all for the great work that you're doing. Now, many believe that I joined CATCA because I was to be General Dean's successor, and that's not why I joined CATCA. It was a possibility, but it wasn't a given. And but reality is I'm here at CATCA because in 2015, my college roommate, Carl Holmes, who a guy I've known very well since ninth grade of high school, in 2015 he died 5 days before his 53rd birthday. Carl was a guy who, when he committed to something, he did it and he did it well. Carl was a guy who we had my high school had won the state track meet for state champions in track for 4 years in a row. Carl, who was never a runner, decided he wanted to be on the track team and began the process of working out. And in his senior year, he was on the state track meet, the 4x4 relay team, who won state and got a scholarship to Purdue. Carl was a guy who saw me one day in high school. I was wearing a suit and had just left a banquet, and he's asked me, "Well, what's that banquet about?" I said, "Well, they're honoring all of the kids in our high school who made all A's on their report card, and I was one of them." He said, "Well, what do they do?" I said, "Well, it's a wonderful buffet lunch. I mean, dinner, and it was they gave us all a plaque." He said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." And from that point forward, Carl made all A's in high school. He was that kind of a guy, an infectious smile, a bright light. And my last semester of college, his girlfriend exposed him to crack cocaine. Carl died, as I said, 5 days before his 53rd birthday. Carl's brother is married to my favorite cousin, my first cousin. And I thought about my failings. In 30 years, Carl was a groomsman in my wedding. In 30 years that Carl had been in active addiction, all I knew was just say no, what Nancy Reagan had taught me. And so I failed my friend. I didn't know about SBIRT. I didn't know about, the science behind when you're exposed to drugs and when your brain, is makes you more susceptible to being at risk of drug addiction. I didn't know who to refer him. I didn't know to tell his parents or his brother that he had been exposed to. I didn't certainly when we parted ways my last day in Houston. I didn't know that he was addicted. And But 30 years, well, great things were happening to me, bad things were happening to Carl, and they found Carl 5 days before his birthday under a bridge in Louisville. indigent, and his system was shutting down. He died 2 days later. And so it was Carl's death that brought me to CADCA, because I couldn't help Carl. I've dedicated this season of my life to helping others who are similarly suited. And so I'm going to walk through a couple of slides to kind of give you some texture of who I am. And so, and I'll kind of fill in the blanks on these things. So, who I am personally, I'm a husband. I'm a father of a 13-year-old, which means that in my son's perspective, I'm tremendously stupid right now, and they tell me that I'll become smart again when he gets maybe mid-20s, but I hope it will happen before then. I'm an author of actually 3 books, and my latest book just came out 2 weeks ago, and it's called Homeland Defense, which really talks about what's going on in our nation right now, the Insurrection Act, violence in inner city violence, riots, and provide some solutions. And that's just out 2 weeks ago. I'm an athlete, a former two sport athlete in college. I played baseball and basketball. I played on a team called Phi Slamma Jamma, which was in the early 1980s out of the University of Houston. Spiritually, I'm a Christian, and that's probably the only thing that I wear on my sleeve. For 38 years, I've been an ordained deacon in the Baptist Church. I teach weekly a grief share every Tuesday, grief share to people who have lost loved ones, and I do that. It's therapeutic for myself as well. I've lost a wife. I've lost my mom and dad. I've lost a child. I've lost a girlfriend at age 19, and death has kind of been that one thing that's been a constant in my life, and it's kept me grounded. And so I teach grief share weekly. Educationally, a PhD from Texas A&M, a master's from A&M, a bachelor's of business administration from the University of Houston, and a master's from the National Defense University. Professionally, I'm a 31-year veteran of the Army. My last workforce was 822,000 people. And so when people ask me, "Oh, are you going to do at CADCA?" If I can do 822,000, I can do 50. And so I'll be okay with that. I'm the guy who expanded the roles for women in the military. I was the guy who had the scars and the wounds and went to Congress to overturn the direct ground combat rule, which precluded women from being in places where with co-located with direct ground combat troops, and that really facilitated the process for us to open all specialties for women, all schools for women within all of the services. And I was the guy who really pushed that ball across the finish line. I'm members of 2 distinguished alumni associations, 3 halls of fames, have 1 honorary doctorate, and was a White House fellow and a U.S. Japan fellow. So I live by this notion of remembering the flag, and we know the flag to be the most endearing and enduring symbol of our democracy. But my flag is family, leadership, ambassadorship, and growth. And I believe families take care of one another. They support and affirm one another, and they're genuinely happy for one another when things go well for them. And then they're there for one another when things don't go so well. Leadership, I believe leaders lead from the front, that they set the tone and they're the example. I believe in ambassadorship, and that we represent the villages from which we hail, and everybody who has invested in us, we should be great ambassadors for them. And I believe that death should be the only extinguisher of our personal growth, and hence my latest book, because I need to be busy. So what I believe in not made up work, but making everything count. I believe in building for the long term. I believe that simple is good, that loyalty is a two-way street, that I give loyalty with the expectation of receiving it. I believe that we should be honest, that we should admit our mistakes, that I believe that sometimes disagreement should not mean disrespect, that we can disagree respectfully. I believe I call my people my treasure, and I treat them as such. I don't believe in doing anything dumb on purpose, and I believe that we should always take care of the little guy. The little guy is the person who's down on the totem pole, who lacks a voice, but we should have their voice. And I believe that we shouldn't be constrained by the box. Now, here's how I think that we improve organizations. I believe we do it by being students of our craft, by being open to being transformed by others' experiences. I don't believe that we should sit at the table unless we're willing to vote. And hence, I don't believe in quiet meetings. I believe in engagement. I believe that we should always seek ways to improve our fighting positions and improve our processes. I believe that we should develop, nurture, and counsel our that's a part of succession planning, that we have to develop the next generation. And I believe in membership. As they say with American Express, membership has its privileges. So my focus, uh, I want us to be in a perpetual state, not of evolution, but of reinvention. The landscape is changing. Some states like yours pass recreational use of marijuana. So CADCA should be in the space of advising you all, of trends that we see from across the nation or across the world, and with regards to recreational marijuana that's approved, safe distributing, and the like. We've been kind of closed. We're still fighting, the fight to not legalize marijuana, but it seems that the ship has left the port, and so we have to figure out, how do we meet people where they exist. I believe in a relationship with the field, and hence I'm on with you all. And this won't be our last meeting. I'll look to come out and meet you all in person after the COVID uh, pandemic is behind us. Uh, know that I'll be your champion here in Washington D.C. and we have a status with UNODC in the UN, and so I'm not just your champion here in DC, but I'm also your champion in the world. And I believe in making your success my priority. And I do believe in the adult model, which is empowered leaders. I don't believe in treating adults like children. When you treat people like children, they act like children. And so I believe in empowered leaders. Here are my guiding principles. Uh, People are the key to success, and I think we should treat everybody with dignity and respect, even when we disagree. I believe that when in charge, you should take charge, but when you're in support, you should be a team player. I believe that we should anticipate requirements, not wait on things. We have an ability to see things coming. You can sniff out a storm, and so we should be proactive. I believe that we should take the initiative and be imaginative and be innovative. We just briefed our board yesterday, and just this year we had probably 78 strategic innovations. Much of it is the result of COVID. And one of the things with our workforce that you guys have all experienced is that COVID was a game changer, and it caused us to innovate, or we would become irrelevant. Uh, this is a significant one. I don't believe in admiring the problem, and admiring the problem is like framing the problem and putting it on a wall and staring at it and talking about it. I believe that let's get after it, let's solve it, and with all of the great minds, when they come together, we can certainly solve the problem. I believe that we should meet and exceed the standard always, and I believe we should trust people, up and down our chain of command in our lives. And I'm going to stop sharing, and that's who I am now. Uh, if you're interested in what my vision will be for CADCA, you'll have to tune in to forum, because that's when I'm going to share my vision with the field. But my vision is still being informed, and it's being informed through this listening session that I'm going through right now with the field and hearing things that are on your minds. And so I'll entertain any questions that you all might have for me. And John, I want to tell you thanks again for wearing cologne today.
Well, thank you, General Price. Very engaging, very informative discussion. Thank you for providing that personal, professional, educational, spiritual background. I was taking pictures on my phone the entire time of the screens because there's lessons in there that I definitely want to use with my team at Tri-City Medical Center and with young people that I mentor. I'm very heavily involved in mentoring myself. So
yeah, and if you want those slides, I can send them to you.
that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll send them.
That'd be great.
I'll send them to Erica, and Erica can send them out to everybody.
Okay, that sounds great. Do we have questions? I'm sure we do, or comments or thoughts. If you do, yell it out. John, I'm sure you have something.
Yeah, I have a comment. I heard about women in the military, and my dad was one of the first to recruit a woman agent for the FBI, and I just wanted to throw that in there. Back in the late 60s.
Let me just share something that happened, and this is the notion that sometimes good ideas are born out of opportunity, and oftentimes it takes a champion, John, like your dad, to usher in change. So I was a 1-star in the Pentagon, and I had just left an assignment. I had been in Iraq for a year, had come back, and my boss in Iraq became the chief of staff of the Army. So four months prior, in the Pentagon, I'd gone to the chief of staff and asked him, let's open everything to women in the Army, because I had been to Iraq, had been to Afghanistan. I had seen what the role that women were playing. I noticed there was no front lines. It wasn't the war that we had envisioned with the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union. It was a guerrilla warfare. There were no front lines, no rear echelons. Everybody was at risk, equally at risk. And so that chief of staff said no. He would open a few mechanic opportunities, but that was it. And then the new chief came in, a guy named Ray Odierno, who had been in Iraq as a colonel, as a 1-star, as a 2-star, as a 3-star, and as a 4-star. And then I just started providing data to him about women. We had 7 women who were 3-stars at the time. We had more than 400 women who had, 1,000 women who had earned Purple Hearts, which means they were injured in combat. We had more than 4,000 women who had earned the Combat Action Badge. We had 5 women who had earned the 3rd highest award for valor, which is known as the Silver Star. And I said to him, you've seen them. You've been there with them at all of these echelons. It's time, And he said, okay, well, if you can make it all happen during my 4 years as the chief, I'll do it. I was with him for 18 months in the Pentagon, and then I went to the largest command in the Army, which is 90% of the Army. And then we were able to execute the things that we had put into policy. We got the laws changed with Congress, and really the Army really informs all the other services of what they do. The Marine Corps, and I know you guys like Marines. My dad was a Marine. My brothers were Marines. I didn't qualify, and I want to say that. I went to the Marines, and they said, no, your head won't fit in the jar and your IQ is too high. So they wouldn't accept me. And so but the Marines joined in after, after we worked all of the issues with the Congress, and so now women are going to Ranger School. We don't have a woman who's a Navy SEAL yet, but it's coming. So I was proud of that. That's probably the proudest, my proudest achievement in the Army is that part.
Okay, other comments, questions, anyone?
I'll ask a question if nobody else has one. General Price, I know during our board meeting, some were interested to hear your perspective of working with the new administration, and I'll kind of add to that in terms of, we know that substance use and prevention is a nonpartisan or bipartisan, or however you want to interpret it. It's not a partisan issue. And especially with policies like around marijuana, it seems to definitely fall a lot on party lines. And what hope do you see with policymakers and leadership in getting that public health message across?
Yeah, that's a great question, Erica. I tell you all that the world tends to see Washington as red and blue. CADCA is a nonpartisan organization, and we work with every administration. I would tell you that the last administration put more money towards substance use prevention, misuse prevention, than any administration thus far. They've created more drug-free community grantees than any administration before them. The new administration, Joe Biden was one of the signatories on the original drug-free communities legislation. He's one of the sponsors of it, and so I believe that we'll see greater work. The challenge, I mean, and this is a part of being here in Washington, is that you get to see the politics, and you can't escape it. You get to see the egos, and so I've met with the transition groups for both ONDCP, the Office of the Drug Czar, and for SAMHSA. And one of the things that I reminded them, they asked, well, what should we focus on our first day one? What should we focus on day 90? And I told them, I think you should focus on year 4 and then work your way back to now. And I told them that, many of these people come in to these positions, these governmental positions, and they're making less in income than they paid in taxes the previous year. And I said, but you have to really come in with a servant spirit, because you're serving something greater than yourself. It's not about ego. And one of the things in Washington, God, ego is abound. That relationships are killed based on ego. We couldn't get the SAMHSA assistant secretary to work with ONDCP because of ego. And so I would just tell you, so that was a part of it. I think that all things kind of point to if we're reading the tea leaves, right, 37 states are in some form of legalization for marijuana. Canada has approved, has legalized marijuana. I think that I know that President Trump said if it got to his desk, he would sign it. I don't know where the president-elect is. I know that the vice president is a legalizer, and some of it is based on decriminalizing. And so it's kind of a wait and see. But I do think that if right now, more than 2/3 of the states are in some form of have legalized to some extent, either medically or recreationally. And so I think that that's probably going to happen. And our best case is to introduce things that safeguards our youth. One of the things that I talk to them about, both groups, is just really about the science and what the science says with regards to when the brain is fully formed. And so maybe we need to move beyond the age of 21 and move to 25, when the brain is fully formed. That's on the table for consideration. Also, we said every community has a fire station, have a church, have a liquor store, have a post office. Why shouldn't every community have a drug-free community grant? And so we're trying to get more money on the table to do those things. I believe that from the vantage point that CADCA has of being, really nonpartisan, we don't weigh in on who should be the nominee, to the administration. We weigh in once the nominee is forwarded to Congress. So that way, we want to be like, you guys remember Don King from boxing, right? Don King walked in with the champ, and he walked out with the champ. Most times it wasn't the same person. That's kind of CADCA. We have to be relevant, immaterial of who's in what parties in office. And so we take that obligation very seriously. But thank you for that question, Erica.
Good morning, General. My name is Earl Brown.
I see you about to call me Captain, Earl.
I almost did.
I was a captain a very long time ago, but thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
that. Okay.
I apologize for that. I'm
No
retired
problem.
Navy,
No problem.
So I just didn't look good in green, so I went with the Navy.
Thank you for your service.
I'm currently a drug demand reduction coordinator for Camp Pendleton. And it was interesting you said that we're still trying to fight the fight and that ship has sailed. I'm personally still fighting that fight because, of course, there's no cannabis allowed, no THC allowed for the military.
No hemp, no.
Right.
Yeah.
No cannabinoids at all.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So one of our difficulties is that we're surrounded by it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I tell you, and I ran the program for the Army once upon a time, and the challenge that we have is within the military is that our funding isn't focused on the extended military family. It's the service member. And so there's a lot of things that are happening in the home, tobacco, alcohol, and illegal illicit drugs. Tremendous issues with prescription medications within the military, and they're just really starting to get something that we're recommending for DOD, and I'm good friends with Lloyd Austin. So if he becomes the Secretary of Defense, and something that I've been trying to work with the VA is co-dispensing of drug deactivation kits, whether it's a Deterra pouch or some other form, but co-dispensing when they give out these illegal illicit drugs. Most people who receives a prescription of oxycodone for whatever ailment they had or a surgery, most people don't use the entire prescription. There's pills that are remaining. And we know from SAMHSA that 64.6% of pills that are in circulation, are that people who are using 64.6% of people who are using never had a prescription. So where are they getting the drugs? Drugs don't exist without a prescription. And it's residue that wasn't deactivated or made inert. And so we're really pushing for that. I think that the amazing thing in the military is that it's really a controlled burn, in that they're testing, the service members. But I believe that the wider issue is not just the service member, but it's the family members as well. And I think that we have to put monies and put a focus on solving the issues within the home.
I did download your strategies for addressing substance use and misuse in veterans populations. So
Okay.
I'll steal that from you.
Good deal. And we have a couple of documents that I'll send to Eric as well that you all will want, is the Practical Theorist 10, which is on opioids and
Right.
solutions for that. 11 is on electronic nicotine devices, ends, which is so prevalent right now. And then the third one is on Practical Theorist number 12, which is on kind of the state of the union with marijuana and cannabinoids right now. And then we just received funding from NIAAA to do a facelift on alcohol, because alcohol hasn't gone away, and so we're fighting new. We're there is a tremendous focus on opioids right now, but LSD, meth, heroin, those things haven't left.
We
They're
just
still
started testing in the standard drug panel. We just brought in LSD
okay. Good.
because it's been on the rise for the military.
Yeah. Okay, but thank you for your question, Errol, and I'll send those. And Eric, I sent you something at a VCC email address. Is that still current?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll send you those 3 practical theorists to share with everybody.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Aaron, I
Yeah.
do have a question.
Okay.
General Price, North Coastal Prevention Coalition, we timed out of drug-free communities back in 2008, and we've been we timed out of stop grants, but I was wondering if there's any ideas around that, maybe that a coalition that's been out of the drug-free communities for over 10 years could reapply.
Not under that program, but there are other programs like HRSA has grants that initially gives you like 3 times the money that DFC would give you, and then it extends to $1 million at year 3. But that's a phenomenal program that you guys would certainly be eligible for, and because you're already organized and you have data, you would be very competitive for that. So I would ask you all to look at the HRSA grants that they award every year, and HRSA has a lot more money than SAMHSA or than you would have received in the drug-free communities grant.
Well, thank you for that recommendation. That's good. We will definitely look into that. We're pushing up against our time here. Do we have a final question?
I have a question, Aaron. It's
Yes.
Kelly McCormick.
Yep.
And thank you, General Price, for being here. This has been wonderful and very inspiring as well. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And one of the things we face, I'm with the San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth. And I'm wondering, and you as the parent of a 13-year-old know that teenagers, speak a different language. They, live in a social media world that we're not natives to. And how do we reach young people, especially with the marijuana, is dangerous message when they're surrounded by influencers that are promoting it and advertising, and the perception of harm continues to go down in their minds?
So something that happens every year, twice a year actually, once at National Leadership Forum here, and then during our mid-year training institute, as we usually have about 400 to 450 youth from across the nation. Most of them are voluntold to be here, which means that they don't come on their own volition. Somebody makes them come. And I would tell you that our key essentials and the things that we're teaching our youth is transformative, and it sticks with them, not just at their current state, but it stays with them for life. And we tend to track our youth through adulthood, and then they stay connected to us even after that. And we profile them in our Coalitions magazine twice a year, in a kind of a where are they now? Something that I would tell you that when it's kids talking to kids, they speak the language, they get to each other. Like for example, uh, uh, a kid will say when offered marijuana or something, what they'll say now is, "I'm good." "I'm good." And that to another kid, says, "Okay, uh, maybe you've already had some. Uh, maybe I don't know what it means, but it works with them." And so in our youth programs, we call it youth led and adult guided. You know, uh, it really reaches those kids, and the kids who come through our program become our trainers. And so they've sat in the seats, and we found it to be tremendously effective. And so something that you might do is send kids to our youth programs. My 13-year-old is teaching me a whole new language that I wasn't aware of, and things he says, and I'm like, "Oh, what does that mean?" You know, and
Mhm.
it's like he's making dad cool, you know, and I just want to know what he's doing, and so it works. Likewise, this group called the Rally RX Leadership Initiative, RX Abuse Leadership Initiative. They have something that we had at Forum this year, and we also had it virtually at our mid-year. That's specifically for parents, and it's a kid's room, you know, and it informs parents of daily devices that kids have, items that where they might hide drugs that you would never think to look. That a highlighter, could be a place to hide things, and it's expressly for youth. I mean, for adults, because you don't want kids to know that, right? But it's a tremendous tool that I would ask you all to take a look at, and if you all want to be connected to them, I can connect you with them, and you could take a look see at the virtual platform. But it's a phenomenal tool to get you, into the mindset of a child, of a youth.
That's very good. Thank you, General Price. So I know that Bill Perno has a question. I'm going to have to hand this over to Erica. I have to get on another meeting right now. So General
Okay.
Price, everyone, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much.
And I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
For sure. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Mhm.
Bye now.
And Aaron, Erica, Aaron, General Price, I just want you to know that when I first started learning about synthetic drugs all the way back in 2011, it was the North Coastal Prevention Coalition, Aaron and Erica and John, where I learned about CADCA from. So they were already doing work around spice and bath salts, and that's part of that collaboration that I learned way back then. But I have a question regarding fentanyl and the illicit fentanyl by the drug cartels there. And I recently talked to parents that each lost a child to a fentanyl overdose, and they're trying to change that language being used for these people that are dying from unintentionally ingesting fentanyl to fentanyl poisonings. And one of the things that the parents said to me that I thought was really powerful is the paradigm shift that he said this has occurred now with the fentanyl and all these different drugs, and that you no longer have to convince a person that they're going to become addicted in that drug overdose stat. There's a potential there that you only have to convince them that they will try it once. And it really is today with what's on the streets and stuff, that risk factor of one pill can kill. So I'm curious what your thoughts are about helping changing that narrative and getting that messaging out there about fentanyl poisonings and one pill can kill campaigns.
So, the interesting thing is that for a person who's suffering from substance use disorder, those words won't make a difference. One pill may do it. I will tell you that I've been to the DEA, and not DEA, but FDA, multiple times to testify either for or against a new drug that's being proposed. And I've sat next to parents, whose child has been brought back with naloxone, Narcan 5 times, and they're angry, because it blew their high. People are sick. I mean, and I think when you're sick and you're in active addiction, you're not really afraid, because your desires and your sensors in your brain that's asking, your opioid sensors that's asking for reward, I think outweighs the risk of death, and so, I mean, I think we say people are sick. And so I don't know that I think there's all kinds of marketing campaigns and PSAs that can go forward. I think they do a great job of scaring people from trying things in the first place, but I don't know how well they do against people who are in active addiction. And that's a big question mark, because nobody knows. The other side of it is that we have this term now that's called accidental, overdose that we're seeing now, because people don't know what they're taking. People don't know that their drugs are laced with fentanyl. Most people who know fentanyl know it from a hospital perspective, not from external, getting it off of the streets. And so you don't know what anything is laced with right now. There's a lady that I sat next to at our National Leadership Forum from West Virginia, who had a son who was at the University of West Virginia, engineering major, doing well, and at college, became exposed to opioids and became addicted, and they got him into rehab, and ran into a friend at Macy's, in Charleston, West Virginia, and he had been through rehab and took a shot of heroin, which was laced with fentanyl, and he died right there in that bathroom. It's, I just think that the issues of addiction, I think we got to understand addiction much, because it's not rational what we're asking people to do. They're not in a rational state when they're needing to feed that addiction. And many drugs now, or many of the things that we're supporting now, are asking for you to take a different drug to become addicted to something different than the drug that you're just addicted to, because it's less, it's less harmful, or it's a controlled delivery, in that you'll have to get this, go and see somebody to get this, shot or this medicine. And I tell you that this I was listening to the secretary of assistant secretary of SAMHSA, and she talked about with opioids, 88% recidivism. Just think about that. Only 12%, of the people who become addicted to opioids, stay clean. And so we got some work to do, and we have to greater understand what's going on inside of the brain housing group of the individual who is suffering from substance use disorder. Yeah.
General Price, this is John again.
Hey, John.
Just a little history. NCPC and San Diego Alliance were one of the first coalitions to do marijuana prevention at the national conference back in 2005 or 6. Wanted to throw that forward. Now we see a lot of them.
Yeah.
There wasn't anybody doing marijuana prevention. We started with outlying head shops in the city of Oceanside. And we have 2, but we haven't got any more since 2003. So, little history.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that history. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Aaron had to step off, and General Price, I really want to extend our sincere appreciation and gratitude for you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this morning. One of the perks of COVID, if you look hard enough, you can find them, and being able to connect with people from across the country on platforms like Zoom, I think is a real benefit and something that can continue, even though, our personal contact in the future is something we all look forward to. Being able to join virtually with experts and leaders in the field like yourself, I think will continue to be something that we can take advantage of moving forward. So I really appreciate again your time, and we're going to be heading into announcements soon. So if you want to stay on the call, you're more than welcome. If you have other things to do, I
got a call coming up in 15 minutes, and so I'm going to jump off. But thank you all for inviting me. I want you to invite me in person. I know you guys have it's 40 degrees outside here, and it's probably 70s there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I need some of that. So so thank you all very much, and have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so
Keep
much.
in touch.
All right, bye-bye.